Hello, welcome back to BIOL1309 Evolutionary Diversity. Last time we finished off liverworts and hornworts, so today we're going to talk about the final member of Biofighter, which are the mosses. We're also going to go through a Kahoot that we did yesterday with Cleve, and Cleve also started the evolution of vascular plants, but we're only going to briefly touch on that. We're just going to talk about the function, the function and the structures of xylem and phloem briefly. Anyways, let's get started. So mosses, there are three class of mosses. These are actually class, not divisions, not subclass. These are actually class. We have true mosses, Braridae, peat mosses, Sphagnidae, and granite mosses, which I'm not going to try to pronounce. Alright, so Braridae, true mosses. You can see here, these are the gametophytes, while these, the stalk and the pod, those are the sporophytes. Here, you see these little clusters. These are the antheridia, which is the male sexual organ of the mosses. They're at the very end, so if you imagine a moss standing upright, they're at the very top. Though they're there at the male gametophytes. So, similar to liverworts and hornworts, they also need water to disperse the sperms. When rainwater hits one of these, the sperm would hopefully be carried by the water and splashed out, and then land on a different moss, a different individual. And hopefully, if that individual is a female gametophyte, the sperm would swim to the archegonia and fuse with the egg. So, a bit of the structures diagram. We have the paraphysis. The paraphysis is a sterile protection cell, so sort of, that protects the antheridia. It exists in both male and female gametophytes for true mosses. The archegonia again houses the egg, makes the egg, and then you can see the tube that allows the passage for the sperm to fuse with the egg. Yeah. Okay. So as I mentioned before, these ones, these are the gametophyte, while this, the stalk, the seta, and the capsule are the sporophytes. They're upright. And this is the sporangium, the place where spores are produced. Okay. So more structures. This there is something called the calyptra, which is a papery cap derived from the dead archegonia. So this thing is actually haploid, while this operculum, the operculum is diploid, is the cap of um the cap of like the capsule. It is derived from the uh sporophyte. Yeah, sporophyte. And then so this is how the spores are spread. At first, when the capsule is moist, it's closed off, and when it's starting to dry, it starts to open, and then curved and open, and then kind of springs out some of the spores. And at the very end, when it's fully dried, it opens fully, and spores would either be flung out. I think Cleve said they would be flung out, but in this case, they might be carried by the wind as well. And you can see actually, for the life cycle to happen properly, the the mosses needs a period of dryness and wetness. So it will first need some rain and then moist, and then dries up to release the spores. Spores would germinate into something called the protonema. This thing, which is an immature gametophyte, looks very like our old friend the green algae, and then it will grow into a proper gametophyte. So this is the life cycle. The sporophyte, which releases the spores, and then the spores grow into gametophytes, yada yada. And then the sperm would enter the egg, will enter the female gametophyte, fuse with the egg, and the cycle repeats. Alright, moving on to peat mosses. This is a very, let's see, not prominent, it's sort of a representative of the sphagnum, the sphagnum, and in the sphagnum and the rest of the peat mosses, there's something called the haline cells. It is filled with dead. It's dead, so these cells are dead, and they're filled with pores, little holes, and they can be filled with water, and they have a very high water holding capacity. And sphagnum has been used by many people over the ages for many different purposes. In the older days, by native people, they're used as diaper materials, and in World War One, they're used as dressing for wounds and boils, so kind of like a bandage. Nowadays, they're used as packaging materials for plant roots or soil additives to increase water holding capacity of the soil. This is a commercial package of sphagnum moss. You can see you can use it to keep Venus flytraps, orchids, and animals and such. And then, so the reproduction of sphagnum compared to what we just saw true mosses, it's a bit different. So you still have the sporophyte in the pod, but the pseudopodium, the stalk, it is gametophytic, which is it's from the gametophyte, meaning that it is haploid, while the setter from the true moss is actually diploid. It is from the sporophyte. Don't mix that up. Moving on, and then the operculum, the cap, the pseudopodium, and then this is when it's moist, it dries, and then it pops and releases the spores. Alright, that's it for peat mosses, and finally we have granite mosses. So Andrea, it is kind of like a small little patch just growing on a rock, and it skips the entire thing. Okay, so we have the moist sporangium, and then it's like closed, but when it's dried, it peels apart. It breaks apart and peels itself, and then it releases the spores. I'm pretty sure this thing is the gametophyte, while this is the sporophyte. But there's no like actual diagram, so whatever. And then so these are the broken. These are the sporangium that's broken apart. You see, they are peeled up. They like peel each other. Oh, not peel each other. They basically spread apart and break and release the spores. And that's it for the three mosses. So there are three theories on the evolutionary relationship between the barophytes and the tracheophytes. And so, one theory proposes that liverworts is evolved first, and then mosses evolved second, and hornworts evolved third. So, likely liverwort is most ancient of these four, and then mosses is the second, and hornwort is the third, and then tracheophytes is the last. Second theory, it proposes that hornworts actually is evolved independently from all of these, while liverworts and mosses shared a common ancestor, and then finally the common ancestor of liverworts, mosses, and tracheophytes evolved into tracheophytes. And then the third one groups the hornworts, liverworts, and mosses, of them having a common ancestor as well. But again, hornworts evolved itself first, and then another common ancestor arise, and it evolved into liverworts and mosses. So still, they believe that mosses and liverworts kind of share a it's more related to each other when compared to hornworts. And then finally tracheophytes, which did its own thing. So now we're going to move on. Actually, no. I'll talk about like the important bits. So best to remember like the difference between peat moss and true moss. The pseudopodium is gametophytic, while the seta is a diploid. And then remember, this is also haploid, and then this, and then they all need water, and then something here. Oh yeah, remember. So the foot, and then this thing, and then placenta. They're all diploid. And this, not much here. Ah, yes. Oh, we'll actually talk about the cahoots, but anyways. And then the gamete for dispersal, you will see this in the cahoot as well. This is asexual, and it is genetically the same as the parent. So another haploid. Okay, anyways, we're going to talk about the cahoot first. Okay, so the cahoot, which we did yesterday with Cleve. First question: which of the following are not a characteristic of early land plants? In case you mix up, tick means they are not characteristic. So roots and leaves actually are derived from like the vascular plants, so not early land plants. So roots and leaves are not characteristics of that early land plants. Small plant size and multigametes are. Second, which of the following best describes the life cycle of Bryophyta? They're heteromorphic, which means the gametophyte and the sporophyte are distinct. They have distinct morphology, and sporic meiosis, the alteration of generations, which means they have gametophytes producing gametes and sporophyte producing spores. And then here, this is from this one. So, which of the following bryophyte contains the symbiotic bacterium nostoc? It is the one of the hornworts here. It is the Anthoceros. Anthoceros. Alright, which of the following structures need dispersal? Spores and sperm. Spores need wind, sperm needs water. Eggs and zygotes, they remain in the female gametophyte. Which of the following statements are false? Okay, only this is correct. This is correct. The rest are not correct. Among all the bryophytes, mosses are most closely related to tracheophytes. No, it is not. Okay, it just isn't. Mosses are more closely related to liverworts. And then all the bryophytes share that's the correct one. Liverworts do not share the common ancestor with tracheophytes. This is the common ancestor that it had with tracheophytes. Yep. And then tracheophytes were evolved from bryophytes. No, it is not. They share the common ancestor, but it is not bryophytes evolving into tracheophytes. Finally, which of the structures are haploid? The paraphase, the paraphysis, the protector cell, the gamete with the vegetative propagation, and the caltra, which is the from the female Angoduria, the female part where, the female reproductive organ of the female gametophyte. Seta, foot, these are diploid. Elaster, this is for dispersing spores. It is, again, diploid. Alright, so that's really it for bryophytes. And now we'll move on to talking about a bit about vascular plants. So I'm not going to go for this. The vascular system is very important for the progressive occupation of land by plants. It is for conducting fluid, water, minerals, and nutrients, and it is very efficient. It provides structural support for elevation of plant bodies, which means that the water actually holds the plant up, and then also the xylem provides rigidity. Yeah, and then so that allows the plants to be taller and outcompete others that are shorter, and because it gets most of the sunlight. Main enriching components: xylem and phloem. Remember, xylem carries water, phloem carries sugar and water, and also xylem carries minerals as well. Lignin, which is in xylem cell wall, very tough. And differentiation of roots, stems, and leaves, they each have their own function. Okay, so just remember all of these. And also xylem cells, they're dead, very similar to the water holding cells of the peat moss. And yeah, they do not have these like the end walls, but phloem cells have them. Sieve tube, they have the end walls, and these sieve tubes, they're alive, so but they don't really have much organelles with them. They rely on the companion cells, which give it food and remove its waste and just general living is done by companion cells instead. Yeah. So that is it for this video. I'm going to see you next time where we will talk about the rest of the vascular system. And not much. Okay, I'll see you next time. Right? Goodbye.